Welcome, everybody. I have with me today Nicholas Boucher, who, if you follow him on LinkedIn, you probably know him as the AI for finance guy. But what you will find out in this interview is he actually has a varied background, some similarities to my own with public accounting and FP&A. But one of the things that is unique about you is you have a very diverse experience, not just in terms of your technical experience, but you've been to a lot of different countries and experienced a lot of different cultures. So I'd like to get into that a little bit. But if you will, if you would just tell our audience in your own words, what are some of the highlights of what makes you who you are today and what you're doing right now?
Yeah, thank you for welcoming me. Really glad to talk to all of your audience. And I am first a finance guy. Like before being something else, I've worked 15 years in finance at PwC and after at Thales, a French international group. And I'm a finance guy who loves productivity, who loves to use technology to make my work better. And when ChatGPT arrived 1 year ago, I thought, what a great tool to use and to make even my work better. But also, I thought already like finance people need to learn it. And the problem is, at the time, there was nobody who was talking about how to use AI and ChatGPT for finance or for business. You had people explaining how you can write a rap song with AI, or people saying, yeah, like you can organize your birthday or the birthday of your kids with AI. And then when we looked about more on business side, you had all of the internet marketers like jumping on it, writing articles with it,
Content. Yeah.
writing copyright, like doing the copywriting for emails. But there was really literally nobody, and I did a lot of research, nobody saying how you can use it for business. So like the real corporate business and the day-to-day of business. And then even less people talking about how you can use AI and ChatGPT for finance. So I thought if nobody is going to explain me how to do it, then I will learn it myself. And quickly I saw the benefits. I used the experience I had as an auditor and then after as a finance manager and FP&A manager to make finance use cases with AI. For example, how do you conduct a budget, like sending budget instructions? How do you write memos? How also you go and do the real financial analysis with the help of AI. And going through that, after I wanted to share that with my audience on LinkedIn, with who I was already sharing a lot of finance insight. And I started to create a course and then continue to teach people on how to use AI for finance. So there was a great also, people didn't know where to start. So there was really a great attention on this. And I finished now by even continuing on creating a group of motivated uh, finance professionals because I thought you cannot only teach once AI for finance. It's changing every day. Now we have a club where we basically exchange every week and learn together how to use AI for finance.
So if I was understanding correctly, it was mainly the combination of your love of productivity and then a gap in the market where you saw
Yes.
nobody's
And
really addressing this for the finance professionals, not just the fun use
exactly.
cases.
Yeah. And since I'm a kid, I love to teach. I even like, I was helping my friends at school on all of the accounting exams. Like I, for me, I loved accounting because like debits, credits, like it just feels equal. So I'm really assured with this and
That made
it
sense to
feels
you from the
safe.
beginning?
So I
I
really liked it too, that, okay, you always find that something at the left is the same as that something at the right. So I really like this. And, but for a lot of friends, it was not that obvious. And thanks to my friend, I could get better grade because I had to study to explain them how it works.
ah,
And,
so you've been a teacher from an early start.
exactly. I found like even more recognition seeing my friends getting better grades, working together than just me. And also as a kid, I helped young kids at football. I was a coach on soccer. So what you say in US soccer, like professional football.
Mhm.
And that's also something I love really like helping others, sharing what I learned, because I really think seeing somebody struggling, and when you know that there is a better way to do it, it's great for the person, but also for yourself. It's very positive to
Yeah.
see that somebody can grow with a bit of advice.
Yeah. I found when I got into training accidentally, someone just asked me to do some training and I got bit by the bug very quickly. Taking someone from, I'm not quite sure, to that aha, and then even like enthusiastic about a thing that they previously were very hesitant about because it was intimidating to them. I'm curious to share with me a little bit, if you will, about, so when I hear you talk, you're in Germany now, right?
Yeah,
You live,
I'm French, but living in Germany, and that was not
yes.
the only place where I lived.
Yeah. So I was going to say, when I hear you speak, I don't hear what my ear thinks is a German accent, but you live in Germany and you've lived in all these different places. Let's just start with where did you grow up?
I'm French. I was born in France, but my mother is Belgian. My father was French. So I already live in a multicultural family, even if we stay like in Europe. So it's not that the culture difference is not that big. And what as a kid was a way of people to joke that I was not really French, that my mother had a really funny accent. So you have it,
What
like
was her
sometimes you're
accent?
bullied about this. And now I really feel when I see all of my friends that didn't have this chance, and it was a chance, and it is a chance, because each time I was going to Belgium on holidays, I saw how my cousins and my aunts, that they had another culture. And we come in Belgium from a region where people work really hard. And that was for me also seeing how they were successful entrepreneurs. I got inspired by that.
And
And actually, in our family, we have a bit the bug of going abroad. So my mother moved to France. My grandparents were working in Africa for a while. My cousin now is in Australia. Another cousin is in New Zealand now, and sometimes in Malaysia. And then I have also on the French side, I have some cousins who are also living outside of France. But they are in France, but living on the islands.
now, does Belgium, do they speak French and German in different parts
So
of
in
Belgium, or?
Belgium, they speak three languages.
Okay.
And that was also a cultural learning, because you need to think that my mother tongue is not French. She speaks Flemish, which is Dutch, and she had to come to France and adapt. And when so my brother and my father were going to Belgium, everybody there was adapting to us. So they were like 10 or 15, but the language we used was French because we could not understand Dutch. And seeing other adapting to us was also a big learning. And that's why now, today, each time I know I speak the language of the other person, I'm going to try my maximum to speak their language first, rather than me imposing my own language.
Yeah. It's interesting that you wrapped up with that because many years ago, I went to Europe with some friends and we just learned one or two phrases in French, German. The friend I was with spoke Italian, and something as simple, you could see the change in someone's demeanor. If I said something as simple as "Sprachen Sie English bitte," and terrible accent, and I'm not even
Yeah.
sure if I'm saying it properly now, but it's the effort, right? The acknowledgement that I'm a guest in your country. I don't speak it, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to at least try. And I notice almost immediately people, their demeanor would completely change. And they would be like, oh, yeah, I speak English, no problem. What do you need? But if you didn't even make that effort, to me, it seems almost rude. And I
Yeah,
think,
it is really, like you say, when you're a guest, you need to ask permission. And you showing your best, even if you don't know the language, trying your best, people will appreciate that so much. And what we see in Europe is often that English speakers, they don't make the effort because they think everybody needs or everybody speaks English.
yeah,
And even though we speak good English, if I see the person, because I know that all of the others normally don't try, if I see them trying, they straight away become on another part, which is like the top 1% of people who have consideration about other languages.
yes.
And that's like a good way if you are abroad, always start by welcoming people and asking something in their own language. And then, like you say, like the guard will go down and then you'll be more welcome.
Yeah, I think unfortunately so I'm American. I live in the US. I grew up here for the most part, but we are literally brainwashed our whole lives. We are told constantly that we're the best country, we have the best of everything. Even now, when it's demonstrably not true, we do not have the best education system. Our healthcare system is not the best in the. I could go down a list that you could just go online and find rankings. We're factually not the best at a lot of things, but we still talk like that. And I think it makes, and our currency has always been of the world. So many things are based on the US that when Americans go overseas, you hear that term, the ugly Americans. It's almost like some Americans feel like everyone should just automatically adapt to them because we're American, and we've been conditioned that way.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
terrible conditioning.
I don't
Uh,
think it's Americans. Is like some other nationalities are like this. Also
yeah.
French. I have some friends. They go abroad. They expect to have their own. We have a drink, Ricard. They expect to have that everywhere. And so
What
it's
is
so
it?
funny to see a group of French on holidays. Like they want to go abroad, but they want to have the French
Want to
habits,
have
and they also like to stay between friends, so they could speak between French and so it's everywhere like this. Like it's not only Americans, and I also believe Americans that travel are also already doing an effort, and they understood that there is
yeah.
something great to see abroad. And already, if I see an American coming here, and even coming here is already a big effort, and then on top trying to say a few words, like I know this person already has a great sense of being open to the world, and I know I will have a great conversation with him or with her.
How many languages do you speak?
So I speak now three languages. French is my mother tongue, English, and German. I've actually something is I decided that it happened like this, but that I have one decade by one language by decade. So the first 10 years between my 20s and my 30s was English. So I went to the US to 1 year of exchange student. And then 1 year, 2 years I also worked in Singapore. And then between my 30s and now 40s, I am living in Germany and so learning German. So now I'm fluent in German because I worked in German. My wife is German and I live in a German environment. And I'm thinking maybe between my 40s and my 50s to go and learn Spanish.
So I think you would pick up Spanish like that. When I was in Europe, I found by far German felt much more difficult because if you look at English, French, Italian, Spanish, they're the word roots are very similar, especially Spanish and Italian, but even in French. German to me seemed like none of it made sense. The intonation, the pronunciation, the physical way you have to move your mouth and your tongue to make some of the sounds in German felt different to me. I'm curious, did you find that when you were learning German?
I learned at school and my mother is talking Flemish and Dutch. So my ear was already adapted to this. But
Okay,
what is hard
that makes
is the
sense.
grammar. The grammar in German is hard. For me, it's not the pronunciation, is really the grammar.
Okay. Yeah, people have a difficult time with that from English to Spanish because oftentimes things are turned around, right? So instead of saying, I'm going to go, you might say, go, I am going to, or something like that, where it's reversed.
Yeah.
But you'll be understood, though. Even if you say it improperly, someone will understand what you're saying and say, yeah, he just doesn't speak it very well. So I'm curious with all of these different places that you lived in, the different languages, and you mentioned this too, just the simple act of even traveling to another country, it opens things up. It gives you different experiences, different perspectives. How do you feel like that has informed how you approach context and the different things that you do professionally or personally?
Yeah. So I learned two things by doing that. The first is that there is a lot of things that you don't know. And I don't know if you have seen that there are things that you don't know.
Yes.
And then there are things like you don't know.
Yeah. The Johari window,
And
the blind spot.
exactly, blind spot. And I discovered there is much more things that I don't know. And then I discovered as well that then there should be a lot of other topics that I don't know that I don't know.
Yeah.
because culturally, but also economically, also just the word itself. Like when you go and see other regions, other food, other temperature, other way of doing things, that just opens your eyes on what is the world and what is possible to do. The second thing is the this curve that we often use for change management. And actually you can apply that to everything. And somebody else showed that to me on there is a so this wave with the acceptance. And I discovered that for me, I need 6 months until I adapt to a new country. And during these 6 months, what will happen is the first month I will have the honeymoon phase where everything is great. I love it here. Like it's the weather is great, the people are great, everything is great. And then like between I would say the third month and the fifth month, there will be a lot of difficulties because the excitement is gone. Then everything is actually harder than what you think. You don't have your routine. You don't speak the language properly. People don't understand you. And maybe at work, you also need to work to learn your new job. So you are now adapting a lot. And then comes like a plateau where really everything is starting to make sense, but it's still not okay. And then as from the 6 months, then you have your routine, you have your friends, the works now is okay. You start to do things where you see the results. When you speak, people understand you. And just like you can navigate in the city without having to understand where are you on the map. And you start off feeling a bit home.
Mm.
And this 6 months is actually, I learned that for myself, it worked also for work. It worked also for sport. It worked also for language.
Interesting.
And that myself, like I'm married and I need 6 months to be from, okay, totally starting something new to having digested that and being okay with it. And that's why when I have friends who have a new job or my wife or friends moving somewhere else, and you hear after 3 months, I'm not sure if it's right for me. I think I don't like it here. I always tell them, wait 6 months and then you can decide if you really like it
Yeah, given
or if it's
time.
really for you. But don't judge too early. Make it work first. And if it's not good after 6 months, then you are probably right. But what will happen is most probably people have actually gone through this change and they will discover that they like it. And if they don't, then they know they should not wait another 2 or 3 years. It means it's not for them.
That's an interesting to have awareness around that alone is meaningful because sometimes people they'll experience the same thing, but they don't have an awareness of that. Hey, there's a lesson to learn here, or there's a pattern that I'm seeing that I noticed when I go here and I do that same thing. I'm seeing a pattern developing, and the awareness that you mentioned, the Johari window is what you were describing, and I like to do usually at the beginning. We could do this right now. It takes 2 seconds to open people's minds up to awareness called the Q test. Just take your finger and draw a capital Q on your forehead, right? And I'm not going to do it because I don't want to bias you.
And
Okay.
I guess I did it in the other way around.
So this is what it's all about is did you draw the Q facing outward so that someone looking at you would see the Q properly? Or was the Q facing you
I did
so that when you looked
this.
at it, you would see it properly?
No, I think I had the chance that I could see my face on the camera. So I was directing myself in front of the camera. But I'm not sure if it worked actually. I'm a bit confused.
Okay. So here's the lesson that I ask people to take from it. There's some people that say, oh, if it faces out, that means you're focused more on other people. And if it's facing you, you're more self-focused. And then there's all these judgments about, oh, does that mean you're selfish? None of that stuff. All it means is that's your default. But most people were not even aware of which way they were thinking or approaching things until they do this little exercise. There's a million you could do. This one's just very quick. And I think for some people, it makes that point that, oh yeah, there are so many things that I'm not even aware of, that
Mhm.
blind spot you were talking about. And it's just to get them to say, okay, let me try to put myself in the mindset of being a little bit more aware. And then when you throw different things at them, now they're just like a little bit more They're willing to be more playful, more curious, more open, that type of thing. So I'm fascinated with your career path because not just the ChatGPT, that makes sense now. The way you explain it makes perfect sense how you got into that niche. But you've been through public accounting and then FP&A. I did the same thing, but my path was not planned at all. I was working in public accounting. I didn't like it. I saw a job advertised in M&A and I thought that sounded cool. Didn't know anything about it. I just thought it sounded cool. And that's what made that transition for me. Can you talk me through how did you first of all, how did you get interested in accounting? Because you mentioned when you were a kid, because I don't remember being exposed to accounting until university. But did you
Yeah.
have some
Well,
exposure to it as
I did as a kid. What my mother and my father, they already, especially my mother, they had these magazines about how to manage the money and
okay?
or some books, and I always like to read this type of magazines or books. So I really always like looking at the stock market. Counting my money was something, and it's really funny because my daughter, who is 6, starts to do that. She's starting also to counting her money. So she's actually getting for her Christmas
I'm curious. Is it
piggy
does she,
money bank.
okay? So she likes counting the physical money.
Yeah, but we have coins here. We don't have a lot of bills for
Okay,
small money. And yeah, so that's interesting that she's getting that. And yeah,
they
I
see everything, dudes. They
uh,
watch everything you do.
so I always like to count. I always liked also the business part. I love to read business stories, people building companies. And my father had his own company, so I saw also how it is to run a business. And he was at the table at dinner, always talking about business. So that was interesting to understand the
Interesting.
politics, to understand the sales. And what happened is during the university, I never learned audit because there are some university or school teaching already audit. I never learned it. But what was open was only audit jobs because when I entered the job market was the financial crisis, 2008, 2009.
Okay, yeah, that was
And I had the ambition to do was sexy at the time to do investment banking or stock markets, and they were just like cutting all of the jobs due to the financial market crash. In my school, some people went to PwC, EY, KPMG, Deloitte, and I was not really aware of these companies. And I talked to one or two person that I really admired who went there. And when they described what they were doing, I was starting to get interested into it. And then one of them was in Luxembourg, which is not France. It's a small country between Belgium, France, and Germany. And I really liked the fact to go abroad and work abroad because I didn't want to work in France. So I applied,
hmm,
got hired by PwC. And the first week they taught us what is audit. And I was like, wow, okay. I had no clue what was audit, but I got it and I liked it. And 1 year after, I was starting teaching people how it is audit. And that's what I really liked about Big Fours. They take you for the brain you have and uh, like your mentality and your character traits. If you are a good communicator, if you can work well in team, and then they will make you grow. And that's where I wanted to go. I didn't want to go to a job where, okay, you are going to do that this year, but also next year, but also in 3 years. And maybe in 5 years, you will get a promotion. I really wanted to continue to learn. I didn't know which job I wanted to do, but I seriously wanted to work hard and to learn, to have a international exposure. And that was the job that met all of these criteria.
yeah, it's interesting. The way I looked at going into accounting was totally different than what you just described. But at the same time, when I got to my first job out of college, it was a predecessor firm to EY. We merged into EY. But I thought I've taken 5 years of accounting. I'm getting ready to sit for the CPA exam. I know accounting. And then what's the first thing they do is they send you off to training. And this is how we do it.
Yep.
This is auditing 101. And then when I saw the first audit program and I thought, do they think I'm an idiot? The audit program was like idiot proof. To your point, you didn't even have to have an accounting degree really
Exactly.
because
Yeah.
of the training that they give you when you first start. But I didn't like accounting. I got into it because as a kid, my dad was in the army. And so the army is very structured, but you can't really do anything outside of the lines in the military. And I always looked at my parents, they're both very hardworking. And I always thought if they didn't work in a government job, they could have done much more. So that gave me this idea that I want to have my own business. And to me, accounting just seemed like that's something you should know if you're going to run a business. You have to understand the basics. So that takes you to PwC. You get into auditing. How did you get over into? So I look at auditing and FP&A as dramatically different in that FP&A is much more about figuring out how to help the business move forward, right? Yes, we do financial analysis, but our purpose is not reporting on the past. It's how do we figure out with all this data, what can we learn to help the leadership team, the decision makers take actions that can move the business forward, which to me, auditing was we're just reporting history. Where did that transition for you come in your career where you started to move more towards what is FP&A?
And so I went to PwC for what it could bring me and how I could grow. I never felt I would be a partner or I would stay my life there. For first, I think you need to have a special character to stay and to go through all of the politics and all of the hard time. And I'm a bit too human minded to do that. So
Too much of a people person?
yeah, no, I could not stay for this. I also got the opportunity to do a second month, which kind of for me was like having 3 jobs within 7 years inside PwC. So I had 3 years in Luxembourg, then 2 years in Singapore, and then again 2 years in Luxembourg. And I went into FP&A because even though I was doing auditing, there I was always thinking, okay, how can we make this audit job better? How next year can we be more efficient? How can I also train people that next year when they work with me, they will be. And that was also another type of mentality because a lot of people next to me, they thought, oh, anyway, I'm not even sure if people are there next year or who is there or if I'm there. They were just getting the juice out of the people as much as possible. And that I couldn't do. For me, I need to have a growth mentality. And that's what I found in FP&A, that you could have an impact on business. You could be a partner and you could start planning midterm, long term, which is, I think once you have learned what you wanted to learn at the Big Four, it's a great way to use your work ethic, your learning of the basics of accounting, but also in business, because you learn a lot in business, and then apply it to a position where you have more responsibility because you are not a junior anymore. Usually you go somewhere outside of PwC, EY, or KPMG to become a manager. And there you'll have a team, you'll be the business partner of some CEOs or some directors in marketing, or even in a factory, you'll be the second person helping the head of the factory. And you can then really have an impact, work a budget, work with all of the other functions to reach the goals of your organization. And for me, that was the perfect transition after audit to feel or get the fulfillment of the need of thinking long term.
Yeah, that's interesting perspective. And again, my transition to FP&A was also not so much planned out as it was, where do I go from here? So I got into M&A and then we got acquired.
Okay.
Viacom bought Blockbuster. I used to work at Blockbuster at M&A way back in the early days. And then Viacom bought them and everything changed. And so it was literally was as simple as I don't want to go anywhere other than a Fortune 500 company. I started out in public. I'm now at a Fortune 5. I want to stay at that level. And the best job available that recruiters put in front of me was an FP&A job at Royal Caribbean. I thought, okay, I'll try that. I didn't know what M&A was like, but it ended up being fun and interesting and challenging. I'll try this thing out. So it's interesting. Everybody has their own path and their whys and how they go about that. I always find it fascinating to hear not just the path, but the thinking behind it, because mine, no thinking behind it, really almost none. Other people sometimes very, very intentional.
One thing also is I feel that FP&A is much more a meta job. So where you need to have skills in different disciplines. You need to understand accounting, because if not, you cannot make sense of figures or identify a problem.
Yeah.
You need to have great communication skills, because you have to go around and get the information that are not in the ERP system, or that are not really clear if you don't go and talk to the right person. You need to have business understanding to also make sense of it after, to connect the dots between non-financial data and financial data. You have a lot of work that you have to do on Excel or PowerPoint. So you also need to have a sense on how to be productive and using the technology the right way.
Yeah.
And then if you have ambitions and if you want to grow and be FP&A manager, to be director, to be a CFO, then you need to have also the politics as skills. And so using all of these skills, I really like this job, because I felt, for me, I used a lot of the skills I had.
Yeah.
What got me out of it is because at the end, I really felt, oh, maybe I even have other skills that I could use somewhere else, but then we can talk after.
Yeah. I felt like when I started to learn the ins and outs of what encompassed FP&A, I felt like I'm like a junior CFO. I'm at a very junior level as a financial analyst, let's say, even a manager. But I'm really, if I'm going to do my job, I really need to think of things like a CFO in looking at the bigger picture. There's all these different things that you need to look at. But so one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, when it comes to listening, can you talk a little bit about how your roles in controlling and auditing, how those maybe influenced your listening skills? Because I think people oftentimes look at the auditors as the bad guys, even in FP&A sometimes, right? If you're dealing with someone and I've had to go as a junior analyst and tell a senior VP, we got to cut your budget by 5% because it was top down. That's what the CFO said. And now we have to work and figure that out. They view you almost as a bad guy from the beginning, but you have to be a really good listener in those roles. How do you feel like those roles helped you with your listening or informed your listening?
I think that you learn the bad way at the beginning. If you don't listen, either you will not identify and ask the right questions, and your senior. I remember that we had one of the tests at the beginning, or it wasn't even a test, it was like an interview to identify controls and understand the process. Every auditor does that, especially the junior at the beginning of the career. And it was for insurance company. And I go there, I interview the person, I write everything. So I thought I did a good job. Then I showed that to my senior, and then he's, but what about at the end? Where do they store the document? And where is the signature? Did you get a copy of it? And I just felt really dumb, because it was really obvious in his voice and his words, but I didn't ask for it. I didn't ask how do they keep the copy. I didn't ask about really like how do they fill up the checklist. So what do they control? And I learned it the hard way, because when you have to go back and to annoy somebody another hour,
Yeah.
and you look a bit stupid in front of them because you were the one who didn't do your job.
Embarrassment's a strong teacher.
Yeah, like I learned it the hard way. And also think in business schools and at the university, you can all of you are cheered up about how much you learn, how good you are going to be when you start your career. But you need to come in all of your job with a lot of humility. And that was a thing, like out of the business school, you don't really get this humility skills, because they just pump you up all the time on, yeah, you are the best in, like you get best education, you are the elite, blah, blah. And you learn it really fast that it's not true, that you have to learn again. You're a junior and you have to be really humble. So there was one big learning. I also think, so there is two aspects of listening. There is the human aspect of respect. So even if I am with friends, if family, you need to listen to people to show that you care. If you do, and I care to people, so I listen to them. So, and if people feel respected and heard, then you will create a connection. Then
Yeah, it
business
creates rapport.
aspect, the people who learn the most are the people who can take the better decision because they will have much more, I will say, weapons and materials to make their decisions. And how can you know if you never ask? How can you pretend that you know better than somebody who is doing his job 8 hours a day the last 10 years? Like, it's really, you should not have this, I would say, this thought that you can know better than the others. And listening to them really helps you do yourself a better job. It's more human. And just these two combined, there is no reason why you should not listen more.
Yes. You're reminding me of a question that I learned from a guy who's the second guy on my podcast, a guy named Jim Pyle, spent 20 years in the Army as an interrogator. And he stopped me, it cold in my tracks. We were at this event and we just happened to be seated at the same table. And I introduced myself. I said hello. And he said to me, "What is something that you know that I don't know that I wouldn't know if I didn't ask?" And the first thing it did was it gave me like a little bit of a state change. I was like, what? I was expecting the trite, how are you doing? What do you do for something like that? And it made me really think. I asked him to repeat it. And I oftentimes since then have thought, I wish I had that question in my back pocket years ago, because if I could have talked to someone when I was doing my job in FP&A and asked that question, what could have opened up that I could have learned about them and their department and their business unit or how things worked? Because that question it's a blind spot question.
Yeah.
It's asking someone, fill in a blind spot for me that I'm completely unaware of. And I just found it a fascinating, of course, here's a guy that spent 20 years asking questions for a living, right? So it was a great education that one conversation with him. I have a bunch of questions that I would love to ask, but I want to respect your time and I want to get to talking at least a little bit about AI since that's your main focus now. So I know you do plenty of webinars that are totally free. Nobody has to pay to see you do a webinar and give the basics overview. Talk to me a little bit about big picture. Where do you see today the biggest, if you look at 80/20, you apply the Pareto principle, what do you think are the 20% areas that AI can be applied best in finance today?
There are, let's group that in 3 areas. It's easier than saying five, even if I
Okay.
have five in my mind, but I will group them. The first one is everything about uh, mundane tasks, so the easy tasks that you do every day that you think you are already productive at it. So
Okay.
email writing, generating an agenda, writing, I'll say like a slide, brainstorming also on some ideas.
Yes.
So all of these where you will never think about using another brain because you think it's a low value task. But actually, because they are low value tasks, you should think how you can make it faster. And that AI can write better and faster than us. It's just so obvious. So you should, each time you are writing something and it takes you more than 30 seconds, 1 minute, you should consider using AI to write this better, faster. And on top, each time you do this, you learn how to use AI better and better because you get exposed more. So
Yeah. You
everything
see
about
what works well and not.
exactly.
Yeah.
So everything about writing, and as our business is and our world is in writing, then the second part is on things you don't know. So
So
if you want to
research.
solve a problem, you need to do some research, or you need to start by knowing more about the problem. So either it's a new accounting regulation, either you have a problem with your inventories and you are not really sure how inventory works, what is the process. Maybe you have a machine that is broken in your company and everybody is telling you, oh, everything has to stop for 6 months until we repair it. And once you dig into it, you understand, okay, like it's just this piece, and without this piece, and this piece can be maybe just repaired in 2 weeks and not in 6 months. So once you know a bit more detail, you're like, people cannot really send you in zones where you don't understand anything. They will feel, oh, this guy knows a bit more than what I thought. So you are much more dangerous in all of discussion you go. And for yourself, like every research, you will just get a bit smarter. And researching with AI is much faster because you don't get polluted by all of the SEO articles that come in Google. And it's just like more practical, faster, and you get better results. But also on things you don't know is how to solve problems. So you can make AI be basically your assistant or your project manager at solving your problems, finding key action plan. And in each of action plan, you drill down to know more details until you get something meaty that you can go and discuss with your team. The third part is about how you can leverage all of the tools you have to make better work. Because AI knows better than you all of the Excel functions. AI knows how to code better and faster than you. AI knows all of the ERP's instruction, like all of the ERP guidance and all of the guides that you can have about the Oracle, QuickBooks. It will know that more than you. And if you combine your knowledge of context and you explain, okay, I have in this Excel file, I have one column which shows the country. I have another column showing the city. I have another column showing the sales. Like, what type of analysis can I do? Which formulas? You can work together something much more valuable than what you thought could be done, because you will have your specialist of analysis plus the specialist of Excel that will tell you how to do an analysis on your sales, and it will open your eyes on things that you didn't think could be possible. So you will learn something new, and you will be faster because you will know what is the best formula to use to make this analysis. And on top, if you use functional storytelling, you can ask, what is the best graph to show it? How can I notify the outliers? And at the end, you go to your boss, you have your slide on sales ready, which is much faster, much better than what you would have done if you do that alone.
Yep.
And next time, because you just learned something, next time you are more efficient. So is this low-hanging fruit using these three buckets? So writing and producing better content on everything you do. Second is learn and solve problems and research. And third is use your tools much better.
Yeah, while you were describing that, it reminded me, I actually used it the other day. I was commenting on somebody had posted something on LinkedIn about Excel, and it reminded me of you need to understand the limitations of different functions in Excel. And it reminded me of years and years ago, I learned the hard way, the limitations of VLOOKUPs. But I couldn't remember what the issue was. And I literally just went into ChatGPT and said, when using the VLOOKUP function in Excel, what are some of its limitations? And immediately it spit back an answer. And I thought, that's what it was. I used it in this way. And this is why it created a problem. And so it literally in seconds helped me to be able to respond better, right? People are not typically thinking about these types of uses for it, to respond better to a question, a comment, or whatever it was, because now I have all of the context of being able to tell that story in detail so someone can learn from it with a real use case example versus a generic comment like, be careful of the limitations of VLOOKUP. So that's not very helpful.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling me, but it doesn't tell me much.
Yeah, it's augmenting everything we do if we use it the right way. And a good tip for people who want to start is to note everything you do during the day, even like the small task. You wrote that on a notebook, and then the day after, you try to do all of these tasks using AI. So using ChatGPT or Bar, and you will see that some tasks, it doesn't make sense. Like you are spending much more time and you don't reach a good result. But you'll be surprised at how many tasks you either do faster or you will produce a better content than you because you could not write it this way, or you didn't have so much ideas that came or so much use cases. Even better, you will do something faster and with much more value than you. And there, like you have discovered in just one day, 5 cases that you ignore. And if you reproduce that every day, And if on top you are in a team where everybody is on board to try it and to exchange on it, then soon within your team, you have hundreds or thousands of use cases and you will never go back. You will never not use it anymore.
Something I learned from the webinar you did the other day, and I think I like to think I have the more of the mindset like you talked about, which is don't take the first output and assume that's all it can do, right? Because so many people get frustrated. They say, okay, I'm going to try it for this. They give it a prompt. The results are not what they expected. And they just conclude, I don't like ChatGPT. It doesn't work for that purpose. But listening to you walk through a couple of use cases and how you said, okay, this is the result I got. Not quite what I wanted, but here's how I'm going to now give it a follow-up prompt. And I think if people can get themselves in that mentality to always think, don't take the first output as the best it can do and understand, yes, you might ask it 3 things and it gives you excellent output. And then you ask it a 4th and it's meh. Don't assume that's as good as it's going to get, that you can always iterate on that. And then as you're iterating, giving it follow-up prompts, you're getting better at understanding, how do I adjust my prompt from the beginning so that next time I can just ask it once. And I think this is where people like you and your courses and what you're doing, I think people need to pay attention regardless of what their job is. I think the niche that you're in, no question, that is one of the best areas, FP&A or finance in general. There's so many use cases you talk about, some obvious, some not obvious. Tell us a little bit about the courses that you have, your AI Finance Club. You touched on, I think it's the AI Finance Club that you touched on earlier, the community. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So if people, they don't know where to start, what I did is I have a video course that just takes 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours, which is really practical. There are a lot of other courses that are free, that are, or where you get a lot of theory. Mine, I didn't want to dig into explaining what is AI or LLM because you just need practical advice and practical exercises. So it's basically how you can start to use it now. And at the end of the 2 hours, you will become from being a basic user to be an advanced user. And I got somebody that was, I have a call after with her. I think she did 5 courses already. And she told me she didn't want to take my course. She said, I did enough. I just want one thing from your course. And I gave it to her, say, can you do something for me? If you look at it, tell me how I can improve it. And I will give it to you for free if you make the review. And she said, based on all of the other courses, yours is really practical. And the others were not that practical. And her, as a finance person, she really recognized the value of it. And that's what I wanted. I want this feedback from people that it helps them concretely in their work and they know how to use it right now.
And which course is that specifically?
That's the ChatGPT video course.
Okay.
But you can watch at any time. You have also lifetime access. And then the frustration I got is that I was teaching only once to the people and they were coming back with questions and asking, oh, now ChatGPT 4 is arriving, what I can do with that, or what can I do also with AI?
Always changing.
Yeah, people are hungry after when you show them the possibility. And I got frustrated because there is no way I can do today a course and capture what will happen tomorrow because it's not possible. So I decided to open a community and a membership, which is called the AI Finance Club, where every week I update people and I give them deep dives on what is AI and how you can use it for finance. An example, last week, we sent a deep dive on how you can use AI in your sales forecasting. And we gave also the Python code you can use. We show concretely how you can do it. It's not just theory, it's application. Right. This week, I'm going to do a mini course that I will send by video. We got also a masterclass on how to create your own GPT. So we have a diversity of masterclass, of deep dives on some video course.
And this is all in the AI Finance Club you're talking about?
All in the AI Finance Club. And we have a really good crowd. Like for now, we have 50 members with a lot of CFOs, fractional CFOs.
That's a great size though. for engagement. That's
Yeah,
a
for now,
very manageable for you as a facilitator or teacher.
yeah, but I think we can have a bit more because everybody has his own job on the side, so they cannot be active every day. But we have already good cases, and yeah, the mentality of the people is good. I'm bringing also, because I'm not the only person who knows how to use AI in finance, and other people know other use cases. So I'm bringing also really good experts where I also myself learn from them. So I feel today is it's a good way to stay at the top without having to invest 2 or 3 hours every day. And that's what I want to provide to the members, to know what they need to look at, to teach them quickly the concepts. And like this, they can go back to what they do every day, but better because they can use now AI. And I guess they will also get other tips even if they are non-AI, but I will share everything I learn so that they get also more productive and efficient. And what I also start seeing, they start learning from each other. People are sharing, and
Yes.
that's also a good asset of having a club where people
Yeah.
also
The
feel
communities.
you share with the same mindset people.
Yeah. I find myself reminding people all the time when I do training classes that you might learn more from the other people in the class than you do from me, if only in that maybe they have a specific problem that you also have that they've already solved. And now they share that with you. I didn't necessarily bring that to you. I might have given you the maybe some frameworks and some concepts or some principles, but that person's one specific example might be worth the cost of admission alone. So one last question, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up here. One of the things that I have noticed, you are now at over 751,000 followers on LinkedIn. I don't do social media outside of LinkedIn. So I don't know on other platforms, you probably even have more than that. So I'm curious, one, how have you used AI to help you grow your following? But also the same thought process, we all are our own brands now. So even if you never have any intention to do a course or be an instructor or trainer or anything like that, even if your goal is to stay in FP&A, be a CFO, whatever that is, we all have a brand. So what are some lessons that you have learned getting to this 750,000 plus followers that finance people might be able to use to help their brand just as a professional?
Really good question. I think for people who don't feel like having an online presence, like you say, there will be a point of time in their life that they will need the online presence because either they will look for a job, either they will want to recruit people. And if you want to recruit somebody, you are going to an interview with this person. Guess what they are doing? They are
They're
searching
doing
your
the
profile on
research.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's
So
the first things.
yeah, and so you need to have this because the tools are available. Just don't ignore it. Then what you should do is make sure, and that doesn't take that much time, but make sure you find some great LinkedIn profile and what you like from it, just copy and do it your own. So if somebody has a great banner, just do it the same style because you like it. There's this book like Still an Artist. Just do this.
Steal like
Um,
an artist.
yeah, Still like an artist is basically
I'm writing this down.
like person who thinks that they invented something, like they already, how to say that, like they ignore that we are 6 billion people and that we have 30,000 or 100,000 history behind us. So somebody had thought already about what you thought before. So you cannot say
Yep.
that you invented everything you did. And, but what you do is your own. You do it your own way. You combine with other things that everything makes it that it's individually yours and is your brand and your way of thinking, the way you want to show. And what it offers you is also being exposed to people you might not know, but you should know. Like we are now, you and me talking today because I have this online presence. If I will not be online, we will never have talked today and I will never have learned something from you.
Yes.
And I see really this is the first value. I met so many great people through being there online that I am the first one benefiting from it. Then the second part is I am now also senior enough that I know that there are people that need my help. I had the chance to be born in a great country, great education, great family. I got great jobs. I got great mentors. And now I know that other people didn't have this chance. And I want to give them them this, everything I learned. And we have today a technology where if I want to teach to 1% or to 1 million person, is the same effort for me.
Yep.
Or why not having 1 million times more impact rather than one time impact? And that's also why I use it this way, because I really feel if I can help a few people and more people, just start continuing coaching them, helping them seeing what is the best way to work in finance, or even like an Excel tip, then I know I will have a positive impact in this world. And I like this mindset of waking up and thinking I will help somebody today.
Yeah.
And I would say, if you want practical tips, if you start posting, like some of the listeners here, like, how do you grow an audience? How do you get viral? I never think about algorithm, never think about stats. Just think about, if you are reading it, do you find value? Would you like to read that? Or if your friends or your staff is reading it, is it valuable for other people? And as long as you do that, you'll be better than most of the people, because you think about the other ones and not just how you can grow yourself.
Yeah, that's a great
And
point.
that was like, the more I gave in one post, like the more knowledge I gave, the better a post worked. It's just the right formula. And like I told you, maybe at the beginning, what is really important is, if you work hard, that somebody, yeah, if you work also in your business life, if you work hard, but nobody sees it, then it's really sad for you, because imagine you have done a financial analysis and your insights and your conclusions doesn't reach the CFO or the CEO, then your work was
Wasted.
for nothing.
Yes.
So if you now take this and on LinkedIn or somewhere else, you wrote a blog article about how to use one of the formula of Excel, and nobody sees it, then it's
Yep.
really sad, because you work pretty hard and nobody is benefiting from it. So then you need
Yeah.
to understand what is the best way that people will stop and watch what you work for. And that's, for this, there is a bit of human psychology, a bit, so you need to have understanding of how people consume content, but that you can learn really fast if you are a good observer and a learner.
Yeah. What you just said there, I think, is a big part of why I've shifted gears years ago to focus on the communication side of things. Because if I look back on my jobs, and I look at the first time I think I thought about this was when I was working at Blockbuster and we were growing like wildfire. We were bigger than our 500 closest competitors combined, right? I know it doesn't exist anymore, so a lot of people don't remember, but we were the 10-ton gorilla in the industry and we were growing. We needed to hire a new person. And my boss came into my office one day and he said, I got this stack of resumes from HR. I don't have time to go through all of them. Do me a favor, go through and just pick out 5 or 10 of the ones that you think are the best. Save me some time. I said, okay. So I started going through them and I came across my resume. Because HR, they keep them, right? Even after they hire somebody. So I set it to the side and I'm going through these resumes and I'm thinking, how did I get this job? I had a bachelor's degree in accounting and I worked in public accounting for a couple of years before that job. And I'm seeing all these resumes of Princeton, Harvard, Wharton MBAs. These are the people that were screening for my job, basically. It's the exact same job I'm doing. And I started to realize it's the intangible stuff, that there are people way smarter than me that could do the job better, but they could not articulate their value. And so they didn't get, as Mark Bowden said in one of the interviews I saw, they didn't get the kick at the can that I got because I put myself out there. I did the best I could to communicate it in a way that person could really understand and see the value. Um, and it's like the missing link for some people. Two things that came up for me as you were talking about the brand building and all the things that you're doing online. I heard this years ago. It's always stuck with me. Dig the well before you're thirsty. Don't wait until you're looking for another job to try to start networking. And now you're in desperation mode and people smell it on you like a dog smells fear. right? Get started now. If you're not, you don't have to want to be an influencer with 1 million followers, but it is in your best interest to build your brand. So dig the well before you're thirsty. And then the thing you said about the original thoughts, right? All the original thoughts are gone, right? We're all copying someone and then putting our own spin on it. Just today, I was listening to an interview with Michael Bublé, and he talked about how when he was young, he used to mimic all of his favorite singers. He would mimic everything about their style. And he said he got to meet one of his idols one day, and one of them told him, if you steal from one person, it's stealing. If you steal from everyone, it's a research, right? If you're taking a little from this one, a little from that one, you're putting it all together with your own little spin, your own flavor on it, that's okay. But if you're just taking Nicholas's post and saving it for 3 months later and posting it as you're going to get caught real quick. It has to be original, but you don't have to be the best in the world at something for you still to be able to add tremendous value to people. Sometimes your little spin on it will make it click with someone where it didn't click the 5 other ways they heard it, right? All right, so tell us about, I know you got AI Finance Club. What are the other courses that you have? You have more than one, right? So you have the
Yeah, we
video
have
course.
we have an advanced ChatGPT course, which is live. So it's not a recorded video, it's twice 2 hours in a cohort group. So you learn with other people.
Okay.
I did that with Christian Martinez. And what we do is we make people who have no knowledge of Python, but have a bit of understanding of how to leverage ChatGPT. But even if you're a beginner, you get my video course inside. So you can become an advanced user really quickly. But we make these people who are, they know and understand that the future is to use technology to make finance better. And we show them and teach them how to use ChatGPT plus Python to make financial analysis and to automate finance process in just 4 hours. And there is no course today that make you learn Python, just Python alone, but we teach more than Python in 4 hours. And it's amazing to see after 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, when people start using Python themselves without any help. And just because we show them our formula, that they just open their eyes on everything that is possible. Because today, the tool to master, if you have ambition about your career in finance, is not Excel anymore. Is ChatGPT is for all the workers, but if you are just thinking about finance, you need to start understanding Python. And you don't need to take 6 months of coding course. You just need to know just some basics, and then you use ChatGPT with you to make ChatGPT code for you.
Okay, that's what I
And
was going to ask you about, is that you don't
sorry, and you need
actually
the
even
data.
have to know how to code specifically.
No, you don't know. You just need some
Right.
basics. And also, you remember what we talked about? There's things you don't know.
Yeah.
This course opens your eyes, especially if you're a finance person and you're not sure what Python can do. It will open the eyes on everything Python can do, and you will try them and you will want to try them. And once you have this knowledge, you will help all of your team, you will help your organization, because you can do a lot more complex tasks or voluminous tasks, because you can automate a lot of things using Python. And you don't have to be a coder to do it. So that's the other course we have. And after, I have other like finance courses to help more junior people, so they can visit my LinkedIn profile to see that. But the main focus right now for me is to help people show how they can use AI for finance, because it's really hard if you have to learn it by yourself.
Yeah.
And I've done like thousands of hours the last 12 months. And if people just come with us, they will save 6 months of their time or 12 months of their time. And that's what I know, that everybody has to work and to get results straight away. So I want to help them get results.
So it sounds like LinkedIn is the best place for them to find you and the links to all of that
Yep.
stuff.
And I guess I will share with you the links. And if you have podcast notes, you can also
Yeah,
share
we'll
them.
put it in the show notes. So in addition to going to his profile to get access and to do all the courses and everything, follow him on LinkedIn. So he puts out content every single day. And it's to what you were saying before. actionable, practical information. It's not just theory and pie in the sky and sharing statistics, and it's actionable stuff. All right. With that, again, I want to respect your time and go ahead and wrap up here. Everybody, go check him out on LinkedIn. Check out his courses, his AI Finance Club. And remember, as always, communication is about more than words.